It's time for Where You Live with Gene and Tony, the show that's all about owning, buying, selling, renting, and association management. If it involves a home, we'll talk about it. Here's your chance to get your homeowner questions answered. From the Concierge Landscape Studios, here's Gene and Tony.
Needed the shelter of someone's arms, and there you were.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Where You Live with Gene and Tony. The show is just going by really quick today, I think. I haven't even had a chance to let our listeners know that we have a free subscription, a bi-monthly newsletter. It's called What's New, and a lot of the topics that we discuss here on the radio show are detailed in much further detail.
Mm-hmm. Detailed in more detail. And on top of that, details. Right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a great publication. Over 18,000 subscribers. Can't be wrong. People have loved it.
Wow.
It's a great resource. It's yours free for the asking. Give us a call, 952-922-2500. That's the main number at New Concepts. We'll make sure that you start receiving your subscription. Ask for Courtney when you call.
Mm-hmm. And if you have a comment or question about our radio program, leave a message on our hotline, 952-224-2668, or email Gene at gene@ncmgi.com.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, that is one of the first things that we're going to be addressing here now at the top of the second hour, an email that was sent to us by a listener last week. But in wrapping things up, we were talking in the last segment about this woman and having a order from her physician that she had a need for a service animal.
Uh-huh.
And Tony, off the air, you were talking about some things that I thought were really important. You had someone who disagreed with that at one time.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners about that, because I think they should hear that.
Last year, one of our renters approached me and said that she had a medical condition that would require her to have a service dog. She lived in a building that had a no pets policy. This was a duplex. It was small, individually owned duplex. This owner always had a rule, no pets. So I told her, here's what you do. You have your dog. I'll send you a form, which, by the way, I got from Donna Hanberry, who's the attorney guru at the Multi-Housing Association. Please fill out this information and attach a statement from your doctor that you do need this service animal for your medical condition. I did not ask her what her condition was. That's none of my business. I did not ask her anything else. Just, I need a statement from your doctor, because I get to ask that as the landlord.
It, again, takes it out of the realm of being subjective and becoming objective.
That's right. And it gets past this problem that has occurred where people will claim any kind of animal in any situation as a service animal. And you've heard stories about people who say, well, I have to have this monitor lizard because he's necessary for my emotional well-being.
I need a lot of hugging from my boa constrictor.
That's right. That's right. Well, if that's the case, please have your doctor make a statement to that effect. The organization that was providing her service animal argued with me about this. They called me up. They were absolutely 100% sure that I was violating the Americans with Disabilities Act because no one had ever
just because you were asking for the information.
Asked for that information. And I went 9 rounds with them. I quoted the federal statute. We looked up precedent. I don't think I ever convinced them otherwise, but they did finally agree to sign a statement for her. I finally said I would accept a statement because this was a legitimate trainer and provider of service animals. I said, if you will sign the statement, I'll accept that. And they did, finally. But I thought it was really interesting. Here, they're in the business, and this man claimed he had never had that request before.
I can't imagine that.
It kind of surprised me.
But it happens. But again, it's not because the association or the landlord where you're going to rent wants to have you go jump through some additional hoops. It's just so that they have the necessary background. So when someone else asks, they can say, no, I gave permission to that person.
That's right.
Because it was legitimate, and here it
That's
is.
right.
So that helps them in being able to stand the ground
That's
and
right.
being supportive of you
That's
if
right.
that's your need.
And that's what I tried to tell him. I want to comply. I will comply. I know that her service animal is to be allowed, but I get to ask for some documentation.
Yeah, I think that's good information.
Yeah.
Let's go with our email that we received this last week from Kathy in Coon Rapids. And here's her question. Dear Gene and Tony, our board is having many so-called work sessions. Now, at these sessions, many budget and other items are discussed and decided. One board member told me that if they held these discussions at the regular board meetings, the meetings would last too long. As it stands, the items that have been previously decided are motioned and approved without discussion at the board meeting. It seems to me that they should be discussed only in board meetings so that the members can hear the whole discussion.
So it sounds like at their regularly scheduled board meetings, homeowners are allowed to attend.
Yes.
And that's very common. But they are holding some ad hoc, that means outside of meetings, to get work done. For example, draft the budget. And sometimes they do that for a rules committee or something else. They don't want to take hours and hours of everyone's time at the board meeting.
Yeah.
They just make the final vote and decision at the board meeting.
Yeah, for what I would say to Kathy is one of the things, if there are work sessions because they're committee meetings and you're interested because you have a real specific, application expertise that you can give the
or
association.
just a legitimate concern. If you have a specific concern.
Asked to be on the committee,
then
you're going to be on all of those meetings.
That's right.
But the last thing that you need to do, and this is just a logistical matter, if you're trying to go through the details of a budget and all the line items and what you should do, the last thing you want to do is open that up to discussion for more and more people.
No.
That you won't get that accomplished. Once the draft is done, now it's being presented in the board meeting. Now you as a homeowner get a chance to probably share some concerns.
You know what? I'm not sure about that. The board is charged with the responsibility of drafting and approving the annual budget.
Well,
right?
yes, you're right. They will do that. However, if the board says, no, we're not opening up for discussion right now, you listen to it as a homeowner after the meeting's done. If you had some concerns, you're right. You write the management company, the board, and you say, hey, I've got some concerns. Can we take a look at this? I think the board would look at that.
They should.
And
truthfully, boards should have as open meetings as they possibly can, as often as they possibly can. I think it's kind of a lame argument for this board member to have said, if we do this in front of homeowner members, the meetings are just going to last way too long. I think if boards would stand firm and say, here's the appropriate procedure, here's what our governing documents tell us to do, you may not comment on our discussion about the budget, but you may listen. If they would hold to that, then they could probably hold these meetings in front of members.
I think, I don't know this to be sure, but I think there's probably a bigger issue here, and I think there's just some ineffectiveness with the board and how to run a meeting. Again, as we've talked about that already.
Too, I was trying to say.
Yeah, we have a board that is going to be discussing a matter, going back and forth, sharing their concerns, their thoughts. It is not appropriate at that time for the homeowners to jump in unless the board says, hey, we'd like to get a few thoughts right now, feedback from those listening at the meeting here tonight. But some boards, as you know, the board starts discussing, and then the homeowner starts discussing, and then the other homeowner brings up something that the other homeowner just brought up, and that's why the meetings get too long.
That's right.
And so
we're talking easily get out of hand.
So we're talking about people who don't know how to necessarily run and guide that meeting, and that is probably a bigger issue. It's always important. I think we would all agree with this. The more important an item is, I guess, coming up with a budget, changing rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a savvy board that's going to turn to their homeowners and say, we want to get feedback before
That's
we
right.
move forward, because you want to make sure that other people are with you.
That's right.
It gives you a chance to have them buy in to what it is that you want to see done.
That's right. And you are there to serve your members.
Yeah.
The board is there to serve their members. You're right. Newsletter is a great tool for this. You can post in the newsletter items that are coming up for discussion on the board, budget items. What would you like to see done on the property next year? I mean, get some feedback from your members.
Yes, I think that there's some other things that need to be taken into consideration here. We need to take a break right now, but when we come back, we're going to go with another story here. This is about a homeowner association president who had their mailbox explode. That's right. We'll go forward with that. But before we do, I'd like us to wrap up this story that we're talking about by giving a little bit more details of the purpose of Robert's Rules of Order and how that applies in a board meeting or an annual meeting. Back after this.